Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
Into Parliament as a member of the Forum for Democratic Change, but now he's a promoter of PFF. He's the Shadow Minister for Finance and the Frontliner. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
The Honorable Dr. Miria Koburunga Matembe, senior citizen. When we stop there, she says, is that all you need to say about me? But she says, woman of God. Does that summarize?
Yes, that's a good. Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers, and you, my colleagues. I haven't been here for quite some time. I thought I was resacked, but now
very nice to have you back. I don't know if you'd stand the fire that we had last week.
No, the nonsense of Mwenda. Today I asked, is the Mwenda on the stage? They said no. I said then I will come. I can't stand that nonsense. I'm glad you didn't call me for that.
Ofono Podel Opondo is Executive Director at the Uganda Media Center. He's a frontliner. He comes from Chabwe, Mulanda, and Kapelebyong. Very nice to have you.
That's now a full title.
That's a full title?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
The Honorable Brandon Chintu represents the people of Kagoma County in the 11th Parliament, is the spokesperson of the National Resistance Movement Caucus. Very nice to have you, Honorable Kintu.
Pleasure is mine to be here.
And last but not least, I have Benjamin Katana. Katana is an advocate and Noop lawyer.
Treasurer.
Treasurer. No, they call him Noop lawyer, but he's an advocate.
I can represent you as well.
Yes. Treasurer of the National Unity Platform Party. Gentlemen, let me get a quick comment, gentlemen and lady, let me get a quick comment from each of you on the ongoing processes to replace the late Muhammad Segirinya for Kawempe North. The nominations have been concluded now. From what we know is that at least 10 candidates have been nominated. Some of the major political parties are sponsoring candidates. One of the nominees is a son to former President Apollo Milton Obote. Benjamin, can I start with you? Yes.
Thank you very much, Charles. Good evening to you, my colleagues, and all the viewers of this program. Indeed, the processes have been on, and the National Unity Platform is actively participating in that process. Our party candidates, the Nalko Lalimbaz, was nominated yesterday. Amidst bullets, amidst arrests, harassment and intimidation of most of our leaders in Kawempe. Hours before his nomination, our head of mobilization in the Kawempe division, Mr. Serviri, who incidentally had the nomination documents for the candidate, was arrested alongside other people, but were eventually able to get the documents when he was released. The candidate himself was arrested shortly after the nominations, akin to the events of 1980, when most candidates were barred from being nominated. It's only by the grace of God that we had him nominated. And I can say that since the process started, many of our leaders in that division have been targeted arrests. You remember sometime last week, even before the nominations, our head of the election management committee and the entire team were whisked away from their car in the middle of the night as they were traveling from Kochi, where they had gone for burial, and detained in Communicado for a number of days, and they were released without charge. So yes, the processes are ongoing, largely characterized by the trademark style of NRM, of harassing and intimidating opponents. But we are confident that we have an upper hand in that constituency, and that the violence notwithstanding, will certainly take it.
Who arrested your candidate?
Well, the people who arrested are from Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force, which is...
you have confirmation of...
Well, they are wearing uniforms bearing that inscription. They are masked, so I cannot tell if it was Brandon here putting on that uniform, but yes, they are in state vehicles, they are wearing uniforms, they are bearing arms, and the people they pick end up in state facilities. So yes, I can confirm.
Who released your candidate and where was he released from?
For him, when he was arrested, he was taken to the police station in Kawempe and later released.
What was he charged with?
Nothing. Serviri, the one who had papers, the head of mobilization in the Kawempe division, he was held in a car and driven around, and eventually when there was a lot of communication regarding his arrest, he was released. Yeah, so we can with confidence say that the people that are conducting these operations are security personnel.
So he was released from a police station and was not arrested by police?
When they are picked and put in drones, they are dropped at police stations. Eventually, some of them are charged, others are not charged. But particularly for him, he was taken to Kawempe police station. He was not charged. He was later released.
Okay, we'll need to find some more information.
I'm sure you also saw pictures of the disfigured face and head of the top TV journalist,
yes,
who was shot by the same security personnel that were carrying out the arrests in Kawempe.
Yes, if you could, production, if you could put back that list of nominees for the Kawempe North by-election. Muchibi Sadat for the Forum for Democratic Change, Luimba's Elias Nalukola for the National Unity Platform, Luemba Luswa Mohammed, an independent, Muverwa Hanifa Karadi, yes, independent, Nsereko Moses, independent, Musitwa Ismail for PPP, Kasacha Henry Mubiru for the Democratic Party, Nambi Farida Chigongo for the National Resistance Movement, Mutazindwa Muhammad, independent, and that's Maitum Edward Stanley, independent. Yeah, if you could pull it up a little bit more, it looks like there's another candidate missing there. The Honorable Brandon Chintu, your quick comment on Kawempe?
Yeah, well, the processes of nomination as arranged by the Electoral Commission are done, and we have a candidate there, Nambi Farida Chigongo of the NRM. As the NRM, we shall go down and stamp for support of our candidate, but we only call upon all the actors, especially the supporters and all the candidates, to respect the guidelines of the Electoral Commission, and we hope that as NRM we have a strategy to reclaim Kampala. So we shall start with Kawempe North to make sure we secure that victory.
When did the NRM last have an MP from Kawempe North? Do you remember?
From when I started following the history of politics in Kawempe, my history doesn't serve me any yet.
Okay. Ofono Pondo, Kawempe?
Well, first of all, they said election is a by-election by constitution. When a seat falls vacant, it shouldn't exceed 60 days, I think, before a replacement is found. And so the process is in conformity with the constitution and the laws of Uganda. For me, I'm happy, I'm glad that even when there are complaints about the unfairness and so on of the NRM in particular, when we call out for elections, we have not had a case where somebody goes unopposed in a by-election. It tells me that Ugandans are willing to engage with the democratic process, and they believe that they have a fair shot at the game. I associate myself with Brandon. We have a candidate, Nambi. Nambi Farida ran for woman member of parliament for Kampala City in the last election. Kawempe North is one of the constituencies in Kampala where she scored highest. She scored 16,000 votes. We think that with what has happened in the last 2.5 years, 3 years, the people who were elected here, I don't think they've done much, let alone Kawempe, but NOP hasn't done much by way of legislation, by way of checking NRM, by way of what MPs should do. Even just speaking on many things. We think we have a fair shot, like Brandon has said. We call upon our NRM supporters to campaign peacefully. We also ask our competitors, because part of the things that the Katanas are complaining about, they don't want to say it on air because it would be an admission of wrongdoing. No people in that area and many parts of the country, particularly here in Buganda, where for now they say they are the dominant group. Their strategy is to intimidate, particularly supporters of the NRM, but also the others. You can judge this by what's going on social media and other media platforms, so that even these nominations, I think they had planned to disrupt, and police intervened. I don't agree with the police in being high-handed and brutal. They should have intervened within the laws. And to know that the police did not want to hide, at least in this case, they are properly dressed, identifiable, and by Katana's own admission, the people arrested are taken and released at the police. Yes, you may not, when the police arrest people, does not mean that all of them will be charged with an offense. Sometimes the arresting is part of neutralizing a bad situation, but also the process of screening who are the wrongdoers and so on and so forth. And therefore, we call upon the law enforcement people to use an even hand. No need for brutality. When you do brutality, first of all, you harm your own image as police, but also the government. And thirdly, you give the Katanas sympathy, which, in my view, they shouldn't deserve. And so we are going into this race to campaign. We hope we shall win for our candidate. Yes.
What do you say about reports that the NUP candidate was arrested, brutalized, and
in this race, I know 3 candidates. I know, of course, the one of NRM. I know Mr. Henry Kasacha, who has been our colleague in the media, and he has been promoting democracy governance with the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. I know him. I only met Mr. Narukora on this show for the first time. He appeared with us here about a month ago. I'd never appeared with him on the media. At that time, I knew, previously, I used to hear him as a DP lawyer, a lawyer for the Democratic Party. He's a calm guy. By all means, when you interact with him, he talks so softly. I have not bothered to find out why he was treated the way he was treated, including tearing his shirt. If it is indeed the police that did so, I think the police command ought really to investigate and issue a public statement, because Narukora is not one of those you would think is, at least to me, violent. But even if somebody was violent, the police has capacity to overpower. They don't have to tear someone's shirt. Yeah. My sympathies go out to him. I hope I will reach out to him in time to come.
Thank you. I would have given you time. Maybe I'll give you time later on to speak about the president doing the PDM tours in Western Uganda, where he is now, but we'll come to that later. Let me hear from Dr. Matembe on the processes to replace the late Muhammad Segni in Kawempe North.
I'm glad to be here to talk about this, because for me, I don't take this thing lightly. Like people are just saying, very good, which very good. Because for us, we are Ugandans. We are watching. We are seeing what is happening. And we are just shattered. Because this is just, what kills me is just one person, just a constituency. How many constituencies? How many members of parliament do we have? 529. And there is just one constituency here in Kawempe that needs replacement. That you bring in anti-terrorists. That you make sure the exercise is so violent, you arrest people, you do all this kind of thing. What is this showing us? What is coming ahead of us? If just one Kawempe by elections for 1 year to go, you can bring these people whom I saw on TV with black, I wish they could burn in their blackness. Eh? Coming and grabbing people and kicking people, and for what? For what? And why shouldn't they anyway? Because if I don't read Twitter a lot, I don't go on those things because they can destabilize my mind and dirty my mind. But at times people send personally something for me to hear. If I could see this son of Museveni saying that everybody wearing NUP uniform, we shall kill them. I mean, Ofono, please. Now, they point out that NUP are bad. They point out, for us we watched how they went into NUP and they vandalized the whole office. They stole all their things. They did all these things. Why NUP? Is it because NUP are bad people? It's because the government of Uganda, the NRM, wants to be the only. By the way, let me steal one thing for you. It has just come to my head. When we are making the constitution, in that constitution we put there systems. We said we have systems, movement, party, and any other system. I can't remember the article. When we were discussing that article, I remember we spent even up to 3 o'clock. We were there with the president who was saying that we should put in that NRM is the only viable, or the best, the only good political system that you should take. Movement. And movement. The movement. And I remember arguing and saying, no, we can't put there that. It was like about 2 o'clock, and President Museveni asked Yosam Tumwesige that tell us about this, because Mbabas was saying yes, and I was saying no, and I was resilient, and I'm not giving up. And the president asked Tumwesige, by the way, is that right or what? And Tumwesige said, what Matembe is saying is correct. You know, that all systems are good, and we should invoke them. So I think in that head, that to him, movement only must be. Because whenever there is any strong party coming on board, it must suffer. It is a terrorist. Its leaders must be tortured. I mean, we've seen FDC. I was there when we were founding FDC, and it was coming actually. If FDC was allowed to, I remember telling the president, please, since you have lost on handing over power peacefully through the term limit, at least let you be known as the father of the good multi-party political system in this country by allowing these other political parties to build. He said, yes, I will do that. And I think 2 days later, he arrests Besigye, they put him in prison, and things begin like that. And now that they saw that FDC is no longer all that vibrant and all that, but there is this young NUP which is, it must be killed, it must be destroyed, it must be. Me, I'm looking at Uganda's affairs as a senior citizen who has gone through this Uganda. And I remind you of the first article in our constitution that having taken into account our history
The preamble of the
political,
Constitution.
yes, our political and economic and constitutional instability, we are coming into a new Uganda. It is so sad that the President Museveni is really taking us back, even worse, by the way. For me, if you ask me which is the worst now compared to all these we have been, when it comes to democracy, constitutionalism, rule of law, and justice, if you ask me, this government is the worst. And I talk as a senior citizen who has no party where she belongs. And that's why I say, please, when one county, Kawempe just like this, and you beat people, and you kick them, and what right? Let me tell you, people, Ugandan listening to me, military is supposed to be under civilian rule. We put it clearly in our constitution. Why should military be the ruler of Uganda? Why should it be when it is supposed to be under military, under civilian rule? And in any case, if there is any disturbance, people are rude or something like that, where is our police? We have our police. Our police is the one which must keep law and order within the territorial of this country. This military is supposed to be watching out at the end, at the border of what is happening to Uganda, that it is not invaded. But when the military is used to beat Uganda and torture them just because they want one party to rule, that is now for general and the government and the way it is saying. And for me, really, I want to tell Ugandans, and all of you who defend NRM, if you, and I am glad the head of the caucus is here, do you know that it is your responsibility, you as the members of parliament, not the caucus? Because it is not the caucus of NRM that should be making laws for us, that should be deciding for us. It is not a party caucus. It should be national. But now,
during your days, did you participate in caucus meetings of the NRM?
Which caucus meetings of NRM?
When there are caucus meetings.
If you want to pin me down, you are failing.
I'm just asking.
Let me tell you, I was working under the National Resistance Movement. We were one movement, and we used to sit and decide, like I was telling you. There was Mbabas saying that, and there I was saying this. The caucus was movement, was the government, was what was. So me, these now, I call them kakas even. I call them kakas. These ones who go and kill our nation. But anyway, I was going to make a call and say, please, Ugandans, you must wake up. And you parliamentarians, you must be honest and be truthful and speak out. You are the one who has the powers. The president is not supposed to order you, do this, do that. No. In fact, you have, by the way, powers over the president because you have a right to impeach him, and yet he has no right to. You know, we made sure the previous government, in the previous governments, the president could dissolve parliament. For us, we said no. Parliament represents all people of Uganda. The president is one person, the parliament are many. He has no right to dissolve parliament. But the parliament should have a right to vote to remove him if he's not going according to people's views. But now, everybody has bowed. But anyway, let me finish and saying it is completely unfortunate, and it is, I have lost the word I wanted to say, but it is a precursor. This Kawempe thing, the word has come. It is a precursor. It is showing you, wait, what is coming.
We'll wait and see what happens over the next 2 weeks.
And then my last thing is to the parties themselves who are contesting. We've been telling these people. Now, why 10 people for what? This greed. This greed to get into power and do nothing but earn money. These parties, I saw them listed there. Why shouldn't they combine and bring one candidate? I know, what, all this nonsense. Because it is all about stomach, it is all about self, it is all about. Therefore, I'm also telling you, multi-parties, you are also as maybe, let me keep my word. There's no difference between you and you are all parties anyway, hopeless parties that are leading this election. Leave Matembe alone and
I don't want Semuju to be only an observer.
Correction. When we were in the CA, I was there. I wasn't a delegate, but I remember very well. The NRM had a caucus, and the Agro Warriors had a caucus called the National Caucus. Yes. When we had the 6th Parliament, we were still under the movement system. And I remember the movement side had a caucus. And the multiparties, as we called them, had a caucus. So caucusing is not a new thing. Honorable Matembe, you were a member.
If they were caucus, they were caucus and not caucus.
Yes,
like
and you have just said here that President Museveni had no direct role in the constitutional making process.
What?
Had no direct role, at least according to the law. You met him during the constitutional making process. So clearly, President Museveni has had interest in the constitutional making and legal making of Uganda.
So what is that?
I'm saying it is
Who
not
says
new.
he hasn't been...
The Honorable Ibrahim Semuju, I need your comment because we need to
said
move on
nothing.
to discussing the amendments to the PDF
Just
Act.
want to talk about Matembe.
But you had a caucus.
You have a you don't have a candidate.
What is the caucus?
Do you have a candidate in Kawempe?
We are not yet a registered political party participating in elections, but one of our promoters is contesting in Kawempe North as independent. You see, the brutality that took place yesterday is a reflection of the general political environment in the country. Dr. Besigye is in Ruzira. I was in court this week. Ingrid Nawe, Doreen Nyanjura, the deputy mayor, and others from our group were arrested protesting a continued detention of Dr. Besigye. They were not produced in court because prison said, we are not returning you to court in the same T-shirts you came wearing, because they arrested them wearing T-shirts with words, "Kill Miss Spear Besigye." They said those ones are political statements. We cannot drive you in our vehicles to court. I asked the court out of anger, the people you drove to Ruzira in these T-shirts, why don't you return them to court in the same T-shirts? They said we have a donation of clothes, they need to remove them. And the magistrate there, I've forgotten her name, remanded them for another 2 weeks. Yes, they are still in Ruzira. The raiding of the NUP headquarters, the arresting of NUP supporters and some leaders. So we are under terror. And I think the right group to be taken to Kawempe to continue with the general terror in the country was JAT. If they took their police, they would be stupid. Because if you are raiding headquarters of political parties, you are arresting people for putting on T-shirts. Dr. Besigye is in Ruzira even after the court judgment. That's what you have established now as conditions in the country. So if you want to spread them, you look at you identify the right agent or agents of the state that will do it proper. And I want to thank JAT, they really did a good job. The way they were beating anyone who is ignorant about Uganda now must really have learned that this Uganda, if you didn't know, this is how it looks like under Museveni who went to the world to fight for elections.
That's on the part of the government. But Dr. Matembe challenged you and said, why do you have so many candidates running in...
For me, I don't have a problem. I don't have a
why
problem.
have 10? I mean, they've already been nominated,
yes.
Meaning that you as players in the political opposition haven't had a discussion on how you manage that by-election.
I don't have a problem with every political party presenting a candidate. I have contested the elections 3 times now. And all the parties, except NUP, which is new, appeared in the last election. all the parties have fielded candidates against me and against any other person here. But in many constituencies, the voters will choose 1 or 2 candidates. The rest will be participants. And they have had the mechanism to do so.
But
He will tell you where they have
appreciate-
MPs.
You appreciate
The
concerns.
FDC presented candidates. The preference is for the opposition to be one, but it is not, and it will not be one.
Why?
It will be, all these parties will exist, and that's why we are under multi-party dispensation. If they choose, like they have done in some constituencies, it pleases me, but I cannot guarantee that in every constituency you will have the opposition. What bothers me are the conditions. But even if they bring 1,000 candidates, like in Nigeria, one time they had a presidential election with 80 pages, with a ballot paper of 80 pages, because the people who are contesting were about 200 and something. That doesn't, what bothers me is what the state is doing.
Why shouldn't it bother you? Because people say failure to have a united front as opposition players undermines the chances of the opposition to overwhelm.
I have told you, if you are listening, Charles,
Yes.
in all the elections I have contested, the opposition, all the opposition parties have fielded candidates, and they do field candidates in all constituencies in Kampala. Katana will tell you there is no constituency in Kampala that NOP won, and won because they were the only ones fielding a candidate. That shouldn't bother us. What should bother us is the conduct of the state and the absence of the electoral commission. I remember in 2005, 2006, 2001, I think, when Aziz Kasujia, the late, was in charge of elections. Because of the violence of, at that time it was Presidential Protection Unit in Rukunjiri, he wrote to President Museveni, I still have that letter, and he said, if you don't remove the military in Rukunjiri, I am going to fail to organize this election. But this electoral commission of a judge of high court, they should have had a press of court of appeal. They should have had a press conference today to condemn what happened in Kawempe, because this is their exercise. How can JAT begin beating the way they grabbed Narukora from a motorcycle? They nearly killed the guy, threw him down, because that was, to the NRM, the appropriate group of joint anti-terrorism to go and police a by-election. And because that is their training, they really descended on the people. I saw the journalist. It's just by the grace of God that they didn't kill him. He's now in Zambia. He went there to do his work as a journalist. And he's beaten because these guys who are covering their faces, they have removed the name tags. They want to wreak havoc without being identified by the public. That's why they will begin with journalists, because they are the ones who are going to transmit those images when they are brutalizing people. So for me, Charles, that's what is bothering me. But parties presenting, they can present as many as 1,000. It doesn't bother
I have had
me.
references. Sometimes they say in Kenya, for example, the opposition, the political parties in the opposition always lost to President Daniel Arap Moi, not because he was popular, but because they splintered their share of the vote so much that they would allow...
The election in Kenya you're talking about, Moi won by 37%.
Yes.
In Uganda here, we are lucky Museveni doesn't cheat the same way like it happens in Rwanda, where the results is 99%. But Museveni will make sure.
In the Rwanda elections, they cheated.
Yeah, there are no elections in Rwanda. As far as I am concerned, there are no elections in Rwanda.
99%.
Here there are elections, but they are cheated. Even if you present one candidate, be sure that Museveni will cheat that one candidate, and he will get above the constitutional requirement of 51%.
50 plus 1.
50 plus 1. He will get it.
Plus 1.
I mean, I was at conference center that time before it became Serena, when the vice to Aziz Kasujia was announcing results. The results for Much India East, the total number of votes was higher than the total registered population.
Do you still have those numbers? We need to review them. Let me take a
They
message
are
from
still
Kakoza
there. They
Samuel
were even embarrassed. They had
Luwero.
rejected it. They attempted to remove it. They couldn't.
Some people like say, throwing.
But that was a matter in court.
With
If you remember, phone upon.
It can go to court doesn't mean it was right.
No, that's what they did. I was not the only journalist available.
Kakoza Samuel in Luwero says, despite all the challenges, President Museveni has secured a good place among the Democrats. So far, 10 people have been nominated for Kawempe North by election. This shows the confidence people have in the democratic process. What happened yesterday was done by indisciplined officers who will face the law. Greetings to Mr. Fono and Honorable Semuju. That's Kakoza Samuel in Luwero. Ken Mutenyo says, in 2021, 10 contestants competed with a combined vote of 66,038. The top 4 candidates got a total of 60,000 votes, 89%. Seginya is dead, Kidandala is out of the country, Tom Lasenge is not competing.
Tom Kasenge.
He wrote
Tom
Lasenge.
Kasenge was the NRM candidate in the last election.
He wrote Lasenge. Kasenge is not competing, just like Latif Sebagala. This means that the 41,197 votes Seginya got are for all to fight for. The only former contestant in is Mutazindwa, who got 2,247 votes. I request NBS to also organize a candidates debate in English. There is no candidate in the by-election with a block vote. Foot soldiers have rejected the candidate their party put forward. DP has the best candidate for Kawempe in OHT where Kasacha Henry is doing a kalango. So tell Honorable Matembe that Uganda opted for a multi-party system. There is no political party called opposition. The leading opposition party didn't initiate any unity talks. That's Ken Mutenyo. From someone else here, Waninda Wilson says, yeah, he's watching the show and he's in Ibanda. Waninda, thank you for watching the show. I have Job Richard Matua. I think this is an assistant RCC for Arua. He says, the brutality meted on council areas in Lukala was unnecessary and should strongly be condemned by everyone. NRM is a pro-people government with a philosophy of winning hearts and minds of the people. Security forces should at most restrain themselves from unleashing such actions on non-violent people. The country needs harmony, otherwise we may unconsciously invite violence from the brutalized citizens. We all have